All right, I'm going to call the August 15th, 2022 meeting of the HBC to order and want to welcome all of you who have come to participate in this meeting. We hope you enjoy learning about what we do. So the first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, great. Our first item of new business is a request of Amber and Mitchell Lee to install a fence at 2210 Rivermont. Is someone here to speak to that? Did you hear?
They did say they were attending, so if you wanted to hold off on this until they're able to arrive.
Okay, is that okay? Okay, next item, the request from Schrader Stone to rebuild a stone wall and install stone steps at 119 Cabell. Is someone here?
That's me.
All right, if you would come forward and if you'll have a seat there and tell us your name, address, and the nature of the request.
My name's Corey Schrader. I live at 1349 Kenmore Road in Amherst. We own a business that does a lot of stonework. This is the first time I've actually come on behalf of a customer to do this for them.
Okay. If you would, I know you sent very detailed plans, but if you would review those plans with us, please.
Well, the wall, basically, the retaining wall, that's the plan view. There you go, the elevation. And some pictures, right. So we're basically right to the left of the home where that pile of rocks is now, is where there used to be a wall. And we will be taking what wall is left there, taking that apart, setting that aside, excavating, pouring modern footings, and a modern CMU block wall. And then that will be faced with the stone that we removed from the site to recreate the look of a all-stone wall, while still meeting all necessary criteria.
Okay. And then the steps.
The steps will be similar to what is shown in that lower picture, where the tread and riser is one solid piece of stone. It'll be either 12 or 13 steps from top to bottom. 12 or 13 large pieces of stone like that will be the top of the staircase. What supports them will be more of the same stone facing that the wall is made out of.
Okay. Okay, are there any questions for Mr. Schrader? Is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve as submitted.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. All right, Mr. Schrader, you will get a letter from Eve, and or will he get it, or will the homeowner?
Both of you will get it. I'll email it out tomorrow morning.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck. I
Yeah,
appreciate
it
it.
looks great. So,
Come by in like a couple weeks, check it out.
all right. Okay, our next item is the request of Randolph College to install a commemorative roadside marker at 2500 Rivermont. If you guys would come forward then, please. Tell us your name and address and the nature of your
My name is John Leary. I'm Director of Building Grounds at Randolph College.
Okay.
Address at the college is 2500 Rivermont Avenue. Beside me is Johnson Tyree. He's the CFO, Vice President of Finance at the college.
Good afternoon.
We respectfully ask that you guys give us permission to put out a historical marker. And I think if you pull up a picture of it, you can see about what exactly it looks like. That is the one. I don't know, quite honestly, a whole tremendous amount of history on Nellie Powell. Jonathan, do you have any?
I know that Nellie Powell was a professor at RNWC, to my knowledge. I mean, our president's office has sort of spearheaded this, but as we put in our application, I mean, we've been approved for a site for this roadside marker by the entities that are referenced as commemorating the role that RMWC played in the women's suffrage movement. And so, as John said, we're just seeking this body's approval to install that marker on Rivermont Avenue, which is there in that picture there. So that's the entrance to Presser Hall, and we're talking further, which direction?
Back to the right, so it'd be
Yeah,
back actually to the east some.
Right.
Where it would not be in front of Presser, but in front of the building, but not, right in front of the entry to Presser Hall itself.
Closer to Norfolk.
Closer to
Avenue?
Norfolk.
Closer
Right.
to, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Are there any questions?
Mine's more generic. I saw the logo at the top says National Votes for Women Trail. Is there a trail there?
I'm not aware of
What
there's
it
a trail
is,
there. I
these
think that-
signs are everywhere
Yeah.
where
Oh,
it's a trail of signs.
Yeah, I think where you're getting at, the marker is sponsored by that entity, the National Votes for Women Trail, which is, as I understand, is a project of the National Collaborative for Women's History Sites.
So
I don't
you're
think it's-
now a spot on the.
Right.
Yeah.
I think if we were approved, as our application said, we would be one of two suffrage roadside markers in the state.
And this is on a post or?
Yes.
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 Is there a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second?
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
Thank you
You're
so much.
good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Okay, next is the request of Barry Agnew to improve a driveway, remove two structures, I think, remove fencing and stones at 1003 Rivermont.
Afternoon.
Hello.
I threw everything in the kitchen sink. My name is Barry Agnew. I live and work with my family at 722 Commerce Street. That's where we live. We purchased this house, 1003 Rivermont Avenue, about a month ago. Our goal with what we're trying to request is to do things to clean up the yard, essentially. There are a number of places, areas in the yard where there are stones kind of inset into the ground. The reason we'd like to pull those up is mainly for safety for our kids. We have 3 young children, 7, 5, and 3, and as they're playing out there, we're trying to get it cleaned up and leveled out and all that. The other, I think, request is there's just a little building, a little storage building. That's it right there in the back. It just serves no purpose for us at this point. I don't know much about it. I tried to figure out when it came about on the property. I just wasn't able to figure that out. It has a modern roof on it. It doesn't right now match the slate roof of the actual house. You can see the inside there. It's pretty, maybe not dilapidated is the right word, but it's pretty rough in there. And if you can't really tell, but it goes down into the ground there, and the whole back side of it would have to be rebuilt and everything. So we're asking as respectfully as we can to be able to demolish that building. We want to flatten that out, fill in the area where it is kind of depressed, and sort of flatten out the yard back there. So that's our request with that building. I sent some photos today. It was the other request about the little metal building. I don't know if they're. You can't even tell. It's like a little metal shed. I wanted to just err on the side of saying, okay, I want to get permission, you know. This is a little metal shed. It's to the left of the building you just saw. So we're asking to demolish that as well. And I think other than that, there was some little fencing, like wire fencing, like that around the property. Eventually, we're going to come to you with a request to put other fencing up. Right now, we're trying to get it cleared out to get a sense of the best placing for fencing and all of that. So that's the essence. Oh, and the driveway. There was one picture of a driveway on there. We want to just kind of fill in that with some gravel. Right now, it's big stones, kind of red mud, and then other like little. It looks like just the objects have just kind of gotten filled in there over the course of time, and so we just want to fill that in with some gravel. The gravel that I found is from Home Depot. It's just standard driveway gravel that I was able to find at Home Depot. And that's the essence of our request.
Okay. Would you all like to discuss this one by one, or?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
probably going to be the easiest way to approach it.
Okay, let's start with the driveway and the gravel.
So I'll jump in.
All right.
So first off, I'll say generic gravel, 57 or crush and run, something like what you've shown. Even though this isn't gray, maybe it's more white or something, is generally discouraged.
Okay.
Brown pea gravel is acceptable. Obviously, concrete or concrete aggregate. You could do strips like where the tires go, or do concrete from edge to edge. That's your call.
Okay.
But gravel as a whole is generally not accepted or approved. Also, I didn't drive by yours, but it looks like you've got some bit of a grade there, and I don't know how long the gravel would stay where you put it and not end up in the road or the sidewalk or somewhere else.
That's a good question. So concrete would be appropriate. If we wanted to sort of just concrete the kind of where it is on the
Yep.
incline, that would be acceptable.
Absolutely.
Maybe the better long-term thing anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
As long as it's just where it's existing, I think it would, if you were gonna extend it at any point, I think that would be a different conversation.
Right, if you're
Yeah.
going to, say, change the footprint of what we're seeing, as what the picture indicates as the driveway now, then that would be a different discussion. Not to say it wouldn't be approved, but we would want to know more about what you're doing and that sort of thing.
It's not our intention to expand that in any way. It's mainly to make it level and so, to be able to be used as a driveway. And did you say brown pea gravel would be
Yeah.
acceptable? I mean, assuming that's a good practical.
That's even smaller though, and being on the grade, it's
Okay.
probably going to move even easier than general gravel would.
In terms of the request today, what's my best way to handle that? Is it to just withdraw that request and then bring it back, or like just say, hey, either one of these options will work and we'll accomplish one of these two? I don't know how.
We can approve an option and say we would approve concrete or pea gravel.
Then I will,
And then,
to the extent needed, I'll amend my request to approve one of those options.
yes.
Okay. Well, having heard that, I'll make a motion to approve number one, to either pour concrete. Pea gravel's your call, but I don't know how well it's going to stay on your
I agree.
driveway. But to
There's River Rock's
do,
an option too.
one of- right,
That would float around as well.
yeah.
On concrete, you may even want to do what's called exposed aggregate. Basically, they get the smaller river rock up to the top, pull the surface off after they pour the concrete in it. From a historic standpoint, it's a lot nicer, more sympathetic to the neighborhood, to the historic district. It gives, yeah.
A normal concrete contractor would know what that means, I assume, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so in I'll say the footprint of the existing driveway.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one question about are you doing anything with the retaining wall? It looks like there's a,
I mean, we would
Concrete wall
like to, I need to get somebody
moment.
out to look and say, what
Okay.
could we do, what should we do? That seems like a little bit, we're really just trying to get this sort of threshold stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, so the answer is eventually.
okay, just curious.
We'll come back, yeah.
All right, all those in favor of the
Aye.
motion?
Hi.
Opposed? All right. Okay. The second item.
In the previous picture,
All right. To remove the two non-contributing structures, the green building and the hidden metal building.
I could turn the metal building into an Airbnb, right?
It's like the secret garden.
so is that the green building we're seeing on the left there?
It is, sir. Yes, sir.
Could you go to the one that's more, the overhead? So it's there. So it was not a garage at one time.
As far as I know, no, there's a door on it, right there, so,
Just
not a garage, just like
a
a,
people door.
exactly, yes, yes, sir.
If I understood right, you said the floor is recessed, right?
It is, yes.
Which-
So-
I'm not an expert, but made me think it perhaps was original or has
Yeah, I thought
certainly
too.
been there for some time.
Both of these are listed as non-contributing structures.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what time they were installed, but DHR lists them as non-contributing.
Okay.
That makes it easy.
Yeah, for me anyways,
Yeah, it's non-contributing, that kind of seals the deal.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
go ahead, you started us off.
Yeah, I'd move to approve removal of both of those as non-contributing buildings to the site.
Okay. Is there a second?
As she did.
Oh, okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Item 3.
That one seems-
Yeah, that's a pretty straightforward yes. In
Remove
my
the
world.
fence.
And coming back, we assume you'll come back when you get ready to build a fence.
Right.
I mean, that, depending on what you submit, could be approved administratively. If it complies with the guidelines, no?
Fences are major work.
Fences are made, okay. So, anyway, so down the road, no, that you'll need to come back, but I'd move to approve the removal of the wire fence.
Okay, second.
Does that include the stones?
And the stone from the yard.
So I actually have been on the property before you guys purchased it, and it looks like that was almost like some sort of like wading pool or something. Like it's almost, I think it's lined underneath with, like it's stone all the way under, is it? Is it
I
not?
think that it has a bit of
It's
a
very
depth.
shallow,
Yeah,
but,
it has like a
yeah.
very shallow, sort of like
Little
this,
fish-
and then there's like a
little
line.
fish
Maybe like
pond?
little fish pond, yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. So I hesitate to remove that just because it seems like, I don't know if that's original, but it just seems like it might need a little more investigation to
And
figure
the
out what's under
DHR
there.
nomination doesn't address that at all, doesn't speak to that at all?
No,
Encourage you maybe to
just check it out a little bit. yeah.
look at that a little more and
Yeah.
think
Sure.
about it a little more before you just jump in.
Yeah.
I mean, recently we had a stone well that the only remnant of it was the perimeter, and it really said a lot about the history of the property, and that might be the same thing. that you-
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to look. Is there any one that you all could suggest that maybe I could say, hey, come look at this, and maybe they can give me some insight on that? Or is there a resource for that sort of thing?
Have you been to Jones Memorial Library and seen if they had any information on the property?
I have not yet, no, but I can do
That's
that.
the
Yeah, they do
only
usually have good
place I
info.
Okay.
would suggest.
I know we used Mark Smith, he's an architect downtown for our historic rehab where we live now. He probably has all sorts of ways to, so I'll ask him.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do we want to approve to the one and not the other?
Yeah,
or-
basically,
I
the
think
motion
so.
would be to approve the removal of the fence, not the stones, encouraging the homeowner to explore the historicity of that area a little more.
Yeah.
And then come back to us and if you decide you want to remove it.
Sounds great. And that, I appreciate that too, because I'd actually really like to know myself, just for the purposes of, maybe it is something really significant. So thanks, I appreciate it.
And it's just that horseshoe structure that you're talking about. There's not random stones that you're saying are trip
there are.
hazards or.
There are a couple of other, like, just random stones in the yard. I didn't take photos of those. It's like one, it's just kind of in between there and the house. It's maybe about this big. And
It's like a flat flagstone kind of
Yeah,
thing?
but it's not modern. It is like, it does look like it's been there for a very long time. So maybe I'll just, if I have somebody and give me insight on the one, I'll just have them give me insight on the other.
Yeah.
Cool.
And if
If
anybody
nothing
ever,
else, you can find some cool materials that you can repurpose.
I know.
I know there's a lot, again, I was not poking around on your property. but
Oh, no,
There's a
no,
lot
I
of
mean-
like bricks and things laying around too, so, you know, I'm just saying, you can present
well,
stuff.
now my interest is
This was
piqued.
before you were the buyer, I
it is.
swear.
I mean, one of the reasons we bought the house is, and what we do downtown, is because we actually do appreciate it. I don't know
Yeah.
much about it, but hey, you know what? You learn something new every day with it, so.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll second his motion.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You're good to go. You'll
Thank you.
hear from me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Eve, I have a question. So that's the same property that had that back railing. Is there any update on that? I know
Yes.
that you weren't
Yeah.
presenting for that, but I just
He
wanted
did
to ask
send me
while
photos. We
we
can
have the same property.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Oh,
Nice.
Oh, yeah, so I accidentally gave you the photo you needed. There you go.
thank you. Looks great.
Much
Oh, the
improved.
new, oh, okay, that's the finished
Thank
product.
you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy.
Oh, dear. All right, the next item is an after-the-fact request of Laura Stinchcomb to replace a gate and repair a fence at 1607 Rivermont.
So she didn't respond, so, you could discuss now or at the end of the meeting, or you could table it, but, I mean, the work has already been done. So that's the gate and a portion of the fence, and then that's the interior of the gate.
And the fence was already there.
The fence was there. I think
So-
she said, this was an existing fence. I added a wider double gate, so that they could fit more into the backyard. Also replaced a few rotted slats.
So I pulled up, this is I think she's bought it in the last year. I found the listing on Zillow, and the fence that was there before is very similar, just, it was old and this is new.
It's actually a replacement.
Right, and it looks in kind, very similar, very similar.
And I guess the gate is wider.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell that, but it looks like a two
It
door
fits.
gate.
Instead of a single.
Yeah.
So shall we discuss it now and have a motion?
I think,
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Based on the pictures I saw and what I see, the before and after, I think it's in accordance with the bylaws, and so I would move to approve as accepted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Hey.
Opposed? Okay, great.
Not in the back.
Okay.
Okay.
The next item is a request of Melissa and Clark Hyatt to do extensive work at 808 Rivermont Avenue. Welcome, and if you would once again tell us your name and your address.
My name's Clark Hyatt. This is my wife.
Melissa.
I didn't speak before. We live at 808 Rivermont Avenue. The first one was that beam that I had to put a beam in, or I was gonna lose my porch roof. It was about to collapse. If you look at it on the side, it's there. You can't even see it from the front of the house. It's covered up by the existing beam that's there already. What I made was an 8x8 beam, and I put it up under the roof right there before I lost it. We came out one morning and the whole, it separated and it was going to snap off, and I would probably have lost half of my porch roof. So that day I installed that immediately. But it's the same width as the beam that's there. It's 2x6s, and I put 4 of them together to make an 8x8. And then cut back the handrail a little bit to fit it in, and then just put everything back together. And I actually fixed something that, wow, yeah. That was done before we, purchased the home. They used a boatload of caulk, so I decided to make it original again and get the caulk off. That's what the beam was that I put in, that it was an after effect, of what I did, and we will be painting that. We got in proposal for colors, to paint front, the front of the house. Also, so it will go white, the same as, the post that is there, but it constructed everything more, it secured everything up, and I was able to lift, my porch roof back up about an inch and a half, to get it back, secure again to where it, it's not going to fall.
Okay.
And then when we purchased the home, we were told by our broker that he had already had approved the fact of being able to remove, and this was already, taken care of, what you see by the mailbox. The rest of it, going on up, is to be, our broker also, he's, going to be taking care of the removal of the asbestos. But he had told us that it was originally already approved, and that, that it was no issue at all to be able to, begin the process of, safely, removing, but he was taking, our broker was taking care of that because he knew a guy that was licensed and, to be able to do this. But, I mean, apparently he wasn't approved, I guess. So we had to add it back in, so.
So is there asbestos sheeting over top of your original
The
wood
original,
siding?
that's the original house, the wood, and it's not compromised at all.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they took old roofing, shingles and put them all over the house because they didn't want to paint them. So that's the original house, the brick's not. The fake brick isn't,
Yeah. So those shingles have already been removed?
The ones, on the lower part, on the lower part.
Okay. And this is to remove the ones on the upper part?
Yeah, the
Is that
upper part
okay.
also.
Well, it's for the after the fact work, and
Yeah.
then I guess, you want to remove the rest as
Yeah,
well,
I'd like
so
to,
the rest
I'd
as
like
well.
to be able to get the rest of them removed so we can expose the house to be able to, bring the house back to the way, originally looked,
Okay.
My wife, she's more of the colors, the painting aspect part of it, but, I mean, I do a lot of work, but, yeah.
Once the fake brick or whatever you call it is taken off and the wood siding's exposed, we want to paint it the flannel gray, which is the lighter gray up at the top on the right. And then we want to paint the, all the trim, the ultra white. And then the porch floor and porch stairs, I think it's called dark ash, which is the dark gray. And then that purple you see, we want to paint the porch ceilings and the front door that color.
And there's 2 porch ceilings to this house.
One's up on the top
Yeah,
level.
there's
and then the
another,
bottom level.
that top level above, that is also another landing up in there with another roof. That's supposed to be a door, is what that's supposed to be. The house, 2 houses up from us has the exact, and it's supposed to be a door. But they just shoved something in there. It's supposed to be a window, but I
It's
wouldn't
a
try it.
window.
It's a window. It does something.
Yeah. All righty, and number 4.
I have 12 by 12 natural slate tiles. That's what you see there. Each one, the floor that's right above the 12, is a floor that I just laid. I just did that floor. They're actually 16 by 16s. that I installed, but it will resemble exactly that. But I'm just wanting to do our front wall, up to the house. The steps, I want to do the steps also. I'll wrap each step, which will help me construct and fix the damaged step, and then I'll carry the slate all the way up to the house.
Okay,
That's what I'm wanting to do with that.
all righty.
And then, oh yeah, brick. We don't have any lattice or anything underneath our porch. What I'm wanting to do there is just enclose it with brick. You can see the brick there, I already have the brick. That's the house right next to us, which has the exact same thing. So we were just gonna try to mimic that, keep the same kind of look, and, not change it up. I didn't wanna do the white lattice. I didn't really care for that. And then I ran into a whole bunch of brick that I was able to get, so I was like, I can mimic what's right next door to us, and the same way. Which, I'll have, the cinder blocks on the base, for the foundation, and then I'll build up from that. Yeah.
Do you have any brick at the back part of the house that's below the floor?
No, not all. The whole back of the house is, wow, it's a big hill pretty much with trees that are coming out, but there's nothing.
So no foundation
No,
material, okay.
no.
Is the original foundation stone of your house, or?
The original foundation, no, I take that back. It is brick.
It is brick?
The original foundation underneath the wood, when I got down and I had to replace some of the wood around the outside of the bottom of the home because it was rotten, when I pulled that out, yes, there's brick underneath. Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last one was what we want to, complete, what we started. And the gate will resemble what I have on top. I'm using the same wood, same posts, and it'll resemble that on the bottom, but it will be the dog ear, pickets that I have. And then it will have, when you're coming up the steps, you have two posts there. It'll be two posts at the top and then the door. And then for the handrails, what we're wanting to do is on the outside of the handrails, keep it the existing, the same way the fence looks on the outside, and then have a handrail on the inside, for you to be able to grab and walk up on the outside of each. It's going to resemble that, the pickets, instead of, having just a handrail. Because then, because I'm wanting to put the door at the top of the steps, not at the bottom of the steps, because you won't be able to, you'll fall over the, the gate trying to get out. So I'm going to put it at the top. So in other words, I got to be able to enclose that part of the fence. So if I'm able just to carry that same pattern up to and then just have a nice handrail, coming down. That's what I was planning on doing with that. And that would finish that project up.
Okay.
And paint it.
Okay, shall we do this one by one again?
Sounds good.
Sure.
All right, well, let's start with the beam that is already there, holding up the porch.
Actually, a column,
Yes.
just
it's
in
a column.
terminology.
Yeah, yeah,
Column.
yeah, I
Okay.
built a column. I built a column, yes, I did.
So what's our pleasure?
So is this, I take it this is not gonna be temporary, you want this to be permanent?
It needs to be permanent.
Are the rest of the columns gonna match that, or are they gonna be the different?
The one that's right beside it, is, it doesn't resemble what's there at all. It's new.
Right.
On either side of the steps, that's brand
I
new.
think those were approved last meeting,
Last night,
Yeah.
yeah.
the ones at the top of the steps.
The columns that exist, correct,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
And they'll be white.
well, what I can do, and
and they'll be white.
what I can do is to carry it and make it look, coexistent. I can put one at the opposite end of the porch,
In the corner.
on the opposite side, which I kind of need to do anyway. you know, because the other side's sagging hardcore now too. Once I get all this in place, once I start repairing all the wood that's on the roof, you know, because I'm gonna have to be doing a lot of roof work. You know, once I start repairing all that wood and putting new wood around the front, you know, I might be able to take them beams back out once I reinstall, do everything. But for right now, yeah, that was an emergency
Yeah,
throw
sure.
in before I lost my.
Yeah, we certainly understand
Yeah.
that. Make sure your family's safe.
Yeah, my dog would have freaked out. He wouldn't have liked that.
So what, like, I have to defer to you on a lot of this from the structural standpoint.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you've replaced the column, the vertical guy, and the beam is actually above it. Sounds like it has some rot issues as well.
It's got damage also.
So down the road, I think this as an interim situation will be fine. And down the road, so I'd move to approve this as submitted, knowing that A, it's going to be white, and B, that when you do other repairs to the roof, that the structure and the trim work is replaced in kind, what it looks like now.
Oh, yeah, that's,
So-
I'm gonna bring it right back to, I'm
So-
using the same wood, same everything. You
So
know what I
that'd be-
mean? Yeah, exactly.
Viable.
So do you feel the left side should mirror or not?
Well, I think any of those work is gonna have to come forward for, you know, materials and everything. So I think that would all fall into that motion.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're good.
And in terms of removing the shingles and stuff, yeah, I think, yeah, and
Yeah.
restoring the wood siding, I commend you for doing that.
Thumbs up, right?
And I would move to approve that as submitted.
Right,
We ran
second.
it, around the back side of the house, I went, you know, because it don't look right, you know, and what they had done was, I guess there had been a fire at this house, and so they had to repair the outside, so instead of putting that fake brick back on, they put concrete on the outside of the house and painted it to look like that.
Wow,
So now I gotta tear all that out.
nice job.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people try to fix old houses.
So I'd move to approve as submitted on the shingle removal.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, good. Item number 3, the paint.
I'd move to approve as
All
submitted.
right.
I'll
Is there a
second.
It's
second?
so compliant.
All
Inside
those
joke,
in-
sorry.
yeah, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 4, install natural slate tile on existing walkways and stairs.
I'm a little anxious about your slate, mostly from, I think it's gonna be slick.
Slippery.
Yeah.
I think
it's-
It'll be slick, but they have an adhesive, that you put on, it's not an adhesive, but it's a clear, coat that you put on top that makes it grouty. You know, and it makes it more, it wouldn't be, it's like if ice gets on it. You know, if ice gets on it, I'm not gonna be skiing off the
Yeah,
side.
even water
Yeah.
on that slate, that natural slate is you're gonna hit the ground.
Yeah.
It's gonna be really slick in that situation, particularly with the slope of your sidewalk.
Yeah, it comes down. Yeah, it sure does.
That's not my wheelhouse. Do they make like a flagstone, something that's not smooth?
It's not smooth at all. It's actually porous. It's natural slate, so it's
Yeah.
cut.
So it's not like a tile,
It
it's like-
deviates. It
called
deviates down.
natural
It's not
cliff.
slick at all. It's got mountains of, yeah, they're all different.
And it's
You
what
know.
you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Material.
Yeah, I should have brought a couple of them so you could see them. I mean, yeah, they don't look, you know, the floor up at the top, on the top one I just did, got broken by Home Depot. And the guy came out and he was just like, well, that one looks like it's broken. I was like, no, that's the way it's supposed to look, man. It gets cut like that. You know, I was just like, no, that's what you did. I was like, wow. He drove his forklift up on that porch and shattered the whole floor.
Oh, my word.
Yeah.
So
And
it's-
it will have like, it'll be the light gray, grout, that will match the house. Is what it is.
You guys jump in.
I think I'd like to see it. It's hard for me to say, obviously you don't want to fall and bust your
Right,
tail
I would
either,
love it.
but-
I'll bring a box of it in. I'd have no problem coming back with that. You all can put that one on the side burner and, next
Leave it
meeting,
on
you
that.
can come back in
Okay.
and bring a case of, just so you can see how each one of them deviates. And it's not a slick top at all. It's, they're really,
Sure.
they're really porous. So.
It's probably heavy to carry all the way in.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Bring a couple in.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple. I don't know about a whole box. Well, a box is about 40 pounds, so I mean, it's not that bad.
So is there a motion to table?
Yeah, I'll motion to, is that number 4, to table number 4 until next month, and the applicant's going to bring in a sample for us to evaluate.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Item number 5, to install brick instead of the lattice under the.
There's no lattice there. It's
Okay.
just dirt and all the materials from the last guy that just threw it under the porch, so.
Given that there's brick foundation on the other parts of the house, it would make sense for me to that. I would caution you, if you completely brick it up, you've suddenly made an enclosed space, and you're gonna get more moisture on the underside of your porch, and you're gonna rot it out faster than it would normally.
Actually, what I was gonna do is do the same as with that, put a couple vents.
Yeah, so that's my point, is you need to ventilate that
Oh, yeah.
space
Oh, yeah.
so that it can breathe.
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
But otherwise, I'd approve as submitted. Make a motion to approve as submitted.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. One last thing. To install the 3-by-4 foot gate with 4-by-6 posts and handrails.
This sounded good to me. I
Yeah.
appreciate the additional information. It made it much easier for me to picture your vision, if that makes sense.
And it's matching the fence that was approved at the last meeting.
Right.
Yep. So I make a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're good. All right,
Thank you for all your work
Yeah.
and helping us understand.
Thank you.
We'll see you next month.
We'll bring a couple tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a box.
Thank you.
Oh, dear. All right. The last action item under new business is an after the fact request of Alexia Lennis with Key Properties LLC to do extensive work. And is it all after the fact work?
The only one that is not after the fact is the concrete driveway. So I think it was the last meeting, they requested to pave it, that was denied, so now they're requesting to install concrete.
All righty.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
We're good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm awake.
All right, if you would tell us your name once again and,
My name is Alexia Lennis, and I'm here just for some after-the-fact work that was done. Most of it was done like last year, like last November. And then, as was mentioned before, like the paved driveway, which I realized last meeting, I wasn't able to say it, but I did see in the pamphlet that it was cement, and I wanted to say like, oh, can I just change it to cement because it will look a lot better than asphalt anyway, so, yeah, I wanted to mention that.
okay, shall we do this one by one? Okay. The first item is the concrete driveway that has not been installed in lieu of asphalt.
And you want the footprint, if you will, is, I guess, the darker area? Is that what you intend to pave, or, sorry, put concrete on?
Yes.
Okay. And is your plan to just do regular concrete or aggregate or?
Just regular concrete, just to
Okay.
make it look nice and crisp. Yeah. Since it's at the rear of the house,
Yep.
so I think it'll look a lot better.
Yeah, I think it would look nice. I think also, as we talked about with the last house, since it is on an incline, the gravel's,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure that's a mess for you guys, so I think
Oh,
the concrete would
definitely.
be nice.
Especially like for the open house, like we were initially thinking of, we wanted to sell it at first. We were like, okay, let's just move in this nice house. Like we put a lot of work into it. So when people were walking, it was really tough, you know, so it was kind of inconvenient, especially for heels.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was something that we definitely want to get done later at some point.
Okay.
And again, just for clarification, you only intend to do a driveway, there's not a sidewalk or something like that?
Well, you see where, I guess in the first photo, where it kind of goes up into that patio right there, you just want to connect it to that, just so it's kind of just seamless, and then that's it. But it's just going straight down where you see the outline of the driveway.
Okay. I see no issues. I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
Second, Julie, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The second item is the exterior HVAC unit, which is already installed and is visible from the avenue.
Yeah, I would say honestly with the house and how it's laid out, it's an island house. You can see it on all sides. So the best thing I can think of to do like a resolution for it is just either to have like hedges around it or maybe maybe a picket fence or just something to cover it, because obviously like there's no, like you can just see it, like there's no way. So I think like that's something that we're going to do is just have that around it, just to hide it in this part.
Now, keep in mind, if you erected a fence, you would need to come back and tell us.
I know, yeah, that's something that I wasn't too sure, like, we were kind of deciding what would look better for the property. I think maybe just keep the greenery and just have something like that, it'll look nice. But that's something I would have to submit as, you know, officially of what we would do, or just to cover the HVAC.
Is that true, Eve?
So
If she wants to
I
put
don't
in
think so.
shrubs,
We wouldn't need to see any landscaping plans unless you approve the HVAC with the condition that it be landscaped.
Oh,
I mean, we
okay.
still wouldn't need to see the landscaping, but if you conditionally approved it, they would have to put something in.
Gotcha.
Does that make
You
sense?
gotta say landscaping or
Right.
screen.
Right, right. Agreed, and I don't know that I have personally have an opinion either way, but I don't know what I'm approving if one's not being teed up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. If
Do
you're.
you have a preference? Are you asking, do you know if you want shrubs versus a fence or something?
I kind of keep going back and forth because I don't like bugs too, so if something happens, I have to go check the HVAC, and I don't want like bees to come at me. So I'm like, I just don't know. So honestly, I think I'll put the fence in, so I'll just submit it, and if I don't go for it, then I'll just put both in, just to see if it's an option, but I think, I keep going back and forth. I'll just put the shrubs. The shrubs, it'll look nice. It'll look nice with the shrubs.
And I don't think it has to be all like completely enclosed in shrubs either. I think it's
Okay.
just screened
Right.
from the street.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
in this example, on the right side of the house, I think it would probably just extend like perpendicular from the house and then maybe a little bit on the side so you can't see it from the street. And then on the other side, kind of the same thing. It doesn't have to be completely enclosed,
Okay,
so.
just do like an L shape.
So,
Yeah.
exactly, two
Yeah.
sides.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, that'll work. So I'll do the shrubs for that.
Okay, is there a motion?
I'll motion to approve the after the fact installation of the HVAC units with the shrub installation, as long as the shrubs are, you know, blocking them
Okay.
HVAC from the street.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay. And install a front door?
So the front door, when we initially bought the house, there was no front door. It was just a USB on all the doors. So the original photo of the house that we were trying to find a replica of, it didn't show the house, like it didn't show the front door. It just showed the the storm door. So we have another property on 1463 that we just rent out, and I was like, you know what, that's a nice door. I like how it looks, and I thought it would be perfect. And obviously, I thought it met the guidelines too. So we actually got the front door made. It's just red oak. It's not. That's the true color of the door. It hasn't been changed or anything like that. So we just thought it would work with the house as well. Matches this, the aesthetic of the wood and stuff like that.
Any comments or questions?
Just know, leaving it natural, you need to give it a little more attention than if it was painted.
Right.
You'll want to reseal it more regularly than repainting every 5 or 6 years, resealing probably every 2. Good thing is it's covered, so you won't get harsh rain or sun, so that's going to help you, but just know that.
Oh, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Because honestly, it's a learning process.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I'm just wondering about, and I didn't notice this until now, but on the door, the threshold, is that
That's wood.
just wood? Okay,
Mhm.
does that
It's a
need,
wood threshold?
does that need to be finished in any type of way, or what,
Can't really, is it just bare wood right now?
No, it's been true. We actually got it, it actually came with the door because it was made with the door. So it's however it's the woodworker, his name is Gray Ferguson, so he did the work for the door, so he installed the threshold, but it's treated wood. Yeah.
It's unpainted right now?
It's not, it's stained. It's like a clear stain, like a clear coat for it, so that's what we have. But it does match the hardy plank soffit that we have, and it matches the shingles that we have at the top, so we're like, okay, we can just keep it as is.
I think it's going to wear better for you if it's painted.
Okay.
And we're, on the screen, we're blowing it up. Eva, I don't know if you can zoom in on that. I think if you just painted it the same color as the existing board underneath it, that gray, the big sill that's underneath it, I think that would visually be better in keeping with the overall aesthetic of the house.
Okay.
And like right now, you can see you can see your footprints going in and out.
Yeah,
I
we're
think
gonna have to caulk it too, do some caulk work and stuff like
Yeah,
that too. to
a
keep it
good
preserved.
deck paint that's going to wear, for foot traffic would be appropriate there.
Okay.
It would really, I think to match that the wood member that's right underneath it would be really good.
Okay. I agree.
I haven't even seen that.
No, I hadn't seen that either. Thank you, Julie.
so I would make a motion to approve the door. I like the door, I think it looks nice. It seems to be appropriate based on, the other historical homes in the area, and I would motion to approve the door, with just the condition that the threshold's painted that same blue-gray color.
Yes,
Second that.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next item. We're keeping Eve busy over there. To install front porch lighting to include hanging lanterns and entrance lights.
Yes, so this was my husband, he actually chose the lights, but he did. So I was away, during that time, the hanging lanterns, there was like old knob and tube, so we saw that, okay, there was like 2 lights here on the porch. So he chose the lanterns that kind of reflect that was in the handbook. And then the 2 side ones, like it looked kind of similar to some of the other homes that we saw in the area, so that's the reason why I believe he chose it, but it kind of had that like new kind of look as far as with the like lantern, but at the same time, it kind of goes with the rest of the aesthetic of the home. So that's what we ended up going with.
Was there any other exterior lighting on the home, like on the back porch or anything?
It's the same light as the
The
back.
same, okay.
Yeah. But there was already lighting as well for that.
The rear lighting was existing?
Not the lantern, but there was already like a
Oh,
line for
a
that.
location for it.
Yeah, exactly. So we had to put a light there.
Emmett?
I think the pendants are great. The ones beside the door, they're more craftsman. It's style. It's, you know, this is more a four square kind of pseudo Victorian, you know, a plain Victorian. And those lights to the side with that hammered glass and that's what's called an arts and crafts house, a bungalow. You might know if that means anything, but it's a completely different type of house, style of house. I think the hanging pendants are, you know, for me are fine. I think they work nicely, but those two beside the door
Honestly, like to me, I like them. They do look to me a little bit more colonial. I mean, obviously, everybody.
they're
has-
more from the 30s, as opposed to colonial, they're more from the 30s than earlier or, you know, colonial revival kind of stuff. The ones up top, you know, this one that's in the center at the foreground, it's clearly a modern fixture. You know, you can tell it's modern, but it has the bones of the classic style, and I think that's a perfect fixture. But again, those two beside the door are just, I was trying to think, are there any craftsmen's along Rivermont?
There's a couple.
Yeah,
Yeah. Across from the park, there's a couple.
yeah. But it's just, I really encourage you to
They're
get
interesting.
one that's more similar to the one that's hanging. I mean, again, that's perfect for those two beside the door. They just, I mean, you've brought a completely different period of time to this house that would have never been there.
It's a
You mentioned
distraction.
that it was like 1930s. I mean, the house was built in 1900. Is 30 years really that?
It's a,
Architecture.
I mean, it's a Jeep door on a Cadillac.
Yeah.
To try to use an analogy, it is completely different world. You know, it's a Mars and an Earth kind of difference in those.
So do I hear a motion to move things along? Emmett?
Mr. Chairman.
You're gonna fire me.
Well, that is why it's better if you come beforehand
Beforehand.
versus after the fact,
Yeah.
because then
It makes it a little
we
bit more
can
difficult.
give you input ahead of time, but
Before
to
buying and
ease your
installing.
pain, yeah.
I mean, I'd move to approve the pendant fixtures as installed, but deny the two beside the door.
Okay, is there a
Looking for
second?
something more appropriate, similar to, I mean, if the hanging pendant has one in the book that's a wall mount, perfect.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second that. And I just wanted to clarify, is the ones that are installed next to the door, are those like the sconces, is that what's installed in the back of the house as well, or is it a
No,
pendant?
it's just the hanging pendant.
Is it pendant? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll second Emmett's motion.
Is there a discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay. Repairs to the front porch and including replacing the metal roof, wood soffit, and reinstalling the original railings.
So when we bought the house, from the original owner, there was no wood like the wood, on the siding. That was all removed, so that's when we came to the initial meeting, like before we, like the first start of everything with the siding. That's why it was cracked and everything like that, so we removed that. So, the owner, he removed all the spindles and the post as well, and he actually, had it returned and removed all the lead paint off of it. So when we bought it, all he did mostly was the metal roof in the rear of the house, the gutters, which he already installed, and also the tongue and groove deck boards. So when we actually bought the house, the metal roof, it was rusted. It was actually a hazard already. From previous, like on the E-Track, it shows like it was one of the leading causes of the state of what it was at the time. So, like we just gave it to a contractor and said, hey, this is how it looked before. Can you just replicate? Because all we had when it came to the spindles and the posts was just a photo, and it was just in a bin. So it was kind of like creating it was a puzzle pretty much, and trying to make it as original as possible. We also knew that vinyl was a no-no, so we just went with the wood soffit as well. So.
Okay.
I think it looks really nice.
Unless I'm missing something,
Yeah.
it looks wonderful.
Yeah.
Does the ceiling need to be finished in any type of way, or?
Doesn't have to be. I think the ceiling, by being,
Not necessarily visible, yeah.
It's a hardy plank too, so it's all.
in its old world, we've discussed this recently, the robin egg blue ceiling of a southern porch is sort of quintessential of what people have. But I think the unpainted is certainly okay.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Next. Install an awning at the rear entrance to the crawl space.
And so that one, that was kind of like the last thing that we put on the house, because there was just, we were also thinking of like putting a door as well, because there's a lot of water that kind of just goes into it, and when it rains, it just puddles where the steps to go down into it. So we saw one of our neighbors have that too, and I was like, oh, that's so cute. And then we just added it as well. So, and it just covered the entryway down, and there was like a lot of people that were coming in and out when we were fixing the home. So we thought it would work, because there's the water heater down there, like all the plumbing, stuff like that. We just didn't want it to get flooded. So we thought it was just a way to kind of keep that solution at bay.
So am I correct in, I zoomed in, it looks like it's a couple 2x4s and either OSB or plywood on the side and some asphalt shingles on the top?
Yeah, just to cover it, just so, like it would rain a lot and it would just puddle.
Sure,
into
no, I understand that.
Yeah, so we thought it was just, we didn't want it to look, we're just trying to make it look something for the most part. Just do a solution for the problem. Because at the time, we were going to sell the house, and then we didn't want people to come, and it was raining a lot. It was during May, and that's when it rains for weeks on end. And then it's just you see puddles and puddles. So we thought that was a cute solution that we saw in another yard that was on Rivermont. So we just used that as inspiration, just to kind of find a temporary solution.
So I don't even know where to start with that. An awning is an option, but the construction of that awning I don't think is appropriate. Yeah, so So if you're going the route of building one, I'd probably have to get my friend Emmett to help me weigh in, but I think you would want a metal roof like you have on the rest of the house. You would want more than 2x4s, probably something square or a post that resembled what you had on the front porch, painted white like the front porch. And on the sides where it looks like plywood or OSB, you want something like hardy plank or a board that resembles what's on the rest of the house.
Yeah,
And it
I
doesn't need,
understand, but also, but we thought, we use asphalt because metal is expensive and like we just,
I think
As
the
far as
asphalt
cost.
shingles would be acceptable
Appropriate on
at this
that
rear location.
Okay.
But
yeah, and it is in the rear too, so. you
So I think the
can't-
asphalt shingles would be okay as opposed to metal, but I do agree that it's way up there. And those little, the construction of it is, I mean, it's not appropriate for the quality of the house, the rest of the house. I would agree that the columns should be, I mean, they could maybe be 4x4s, but again, would need to be painted. They wouldn't have to be quite as elaborate as the front.
Yeah, I
as the
understand.
front.
I agree.
It's a subservient space at the rear of the house, but
Well, the height of it is about 6 feet because where, like, in order to get down into the crawl space, you kind of have to a little bit duck. So it's
Okay.
kind of like the height is.
yeah, and
Yes.
obviously working out that height is okay, but I think just a piece of plywood on the side and 2x4s for the columns are not quite up to the standard of the rest of your lovely home. It's just a little, so I would agree with Commissioner Arriaga that it needs to be a little more quality. It does not have to be absolute front porch quality, but, a substantial column and a decent siding on the side as opposed to just a piece of unpainted plywood and trim. So I just needs.
Well, could I throw into the conversation, like, I'm just reading
Please.
over these guidelines, and while I agree, and I think your home is so beautiful, and I think that's what he's getting at, it's like we just want to see something a little more. But when I'm reading, A, B, C, D, E, I don't know that any of, while I agree with your points, I don't know that is covered in.
Well, all of these are, she's looking at the guidelines.
Sorry, yeah.
Those are all fabric awnings
Yeah.
Right.
as opposed to.
So it wouldn't cover the.
Yeah, carpentry.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
a fabric awning would be
Yeah,
acceptable.
fine.
That's where I was gonna go. They have
Okay.
fabric or the metal. There's different styles other than what you're using.
Yeah, a fabric awning would be great.
Yeah, fine.
You wouldn't even have to have
Yeah.
posts. It could just hang off of the wall.
Kinda like
And,
what-
yeah,
what she's
like
showing
one of
there.
those would be great. Would be even simpler. And
Agreed.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you could make it even a little bigger to give you
More
better coverage to
Yeah.
keep the water out of that hole. Because definitely keeping the basement dry is hugely important. You're exactly right on that.
Okay, because we just saw in another, like, as far as another property on Rivermont, just to kind of get ideas and, I agree, as
Yeah.
far as with this, like, if we were to move forward,
Yeah,
what
so
we
that,
have, just put siding on
yeah,
it.
so either one of those could be a fabric awning like this, could be appropriate, or a little better construction, like, similar to what you have, just taking it to a quality level that matches your house.
Okay.
But that's something that would need to be resubmitted.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was gonna be my next question, like, what would be the process moving forward with that, as far as the materials, or would it be, I'll just leave that.
Yeah, so once you decide what you guys want to do, if you want to go with the fabric or if you want to rebuild the awning that you have, you would just reapply for a COA and make sure you include your materials, any pictures you have and things like that.
Okay.
And Eve, if it's appropriate enough, you could approve that administratively? That's not major construction?
If they choose to construct one, that would probably need to come back. The fabric awning might be administrative, depending on what was submitted.
Right.
It sounds like you're leaning towards maybe
Construction.
just beefing this one
Yeah,
up?
because like towards the end of the project, like my husband pretty much took over because I was pregnant at the time. So like I really don't. I know he'll kind of be like, I really don't want to tear it down because at the time the price of materials was.
So bottom line is, if the 2x4 columns are replaced with something more substantial and the siding is upgraded, what's there is okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I do have another question. What is usually the timeline as far as like the completion of, for example, the awning or like stuff like that? Like I'm kind of unsure.
A year.
A year.
It's a,
Isn't that
Yeah,
right?
that
It's
you have a
too
year to
long, but-
start work and then 2 years to complete it if you're continuing to do work throughout that period.
Okay.
Yeah.
so nobody's gonna be knocking on the door next week.
That's all I care about.
Okay, so we need a motion to not
Yeah,
approve.
I'll make the motion to deny number 6 as submitted. And following the discussion with the applicant, she'll bring back her amended changes, should she pursue that route.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
so
guys.
we'll see you again.
It's looking great, it really is.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That was like our first big project, so.
It was big, but it looks good.
Yeah.
Wasn't going anywhere.
You've been back.
Okay, shall we do the old business first or see if the leaps are here?
Yeah, let's see if they're,
Are the leaps here?
I don't think,
No.
I guess they're not coming.
Let's do the old business and then decide about the leaps. The old business is an after-the-fact request by Dr. Kathy Franklin on behalf of Virginia University of Lynchburg to pave a parking lot and install a guardrail and lighting at 2057 Garfield Avenue. Welcome, gentlemen, if you will tell us who you are and the nature of this amended request, I guess.
Good afternoon. My name is Rex Hammond. I'm representing Virginia University. This is Nathan Merritt. He's also representing our university today.
Okay.
As you may or may not know, we've had a change in staff. Dr. Buckley is not representing us on this project anymore. So there's a little bit of a gap in knowledge in terms of what I know has been presented to you and what has already been presented to you. So hopefully a few of the ideas that I'll share with you this afternoon will be consistent with what Dr. Buckley has brought up. You may or may not know that VUL is 135 years old and it's the oldest university in Lynchburg. It's a historic black college and university. And by any objective means, it has not been a wealthy university over its century of existence. We have been successful in garnering several National Park Service grants that will help with our building inventory. We have primarily 3 buildings, at least in the central campus, and one on Campbell that we've acquired at, I guess, I don't know if we're spot zoned on that one or not. But Humbol's, Cageland, and Graham are between 60 and 100 years old. You're probably aware that those building projects need to go through the Department of Historic Resources as well as the National Park Service to deal with the historicity concerns of the properties. As I understand it, in 2018, we came to you and asked for historic designation. I'm not sure the people at at that time understood the implications of what they were asking for. And now we have a parking lot that we're trying to make functional, attractive, and safe. There's 3 elements of this parcel. There's the guardrail. There was a guardrail in there initially. That was torn out so that some support mechanisms could be put under that side of the building to make sure that the building didn't crack. And that necessitated the driveway to extend out into that plain area. And, I wouldn't expect you to know what that parcel looks like, but from Cageland Library and right now a 1-lane entrance into the parking lot, and there's a severe dip in, I don't want to call it a floodplain, but you can picture that at least. It's about a 10-foot drop. As being a university, we have college students at varying degrees of ability to drive, and you could understand why there would be a concern about a parking lot adjacent to such a severe drop-off. So out of sequence, we put that guardrail in there. I might add that we're, after 135 years of somewhat of a static situation, we're compelled by a September 26th event where we'll have 350 graduates of VUL, the largest graduation class that we've ever had. There'll probably be 1,000 people on that dell. And we would very much like to have that parking lot finished for that event. The other 2 elements, so the 2 aspects that tie the 3 elements of improvement together are safety and ADA. When we applied for these National Park Service grants, we've placed a high emphasis on making all of our buildings handicapped accessible. They are not currently. As you know, it's a very expensive proposition to do so, and we feel that a hard surface parking lot would be the best way to transport people from one location to the other. Wheelchairs and crutches do not operate well in gravel, certainly not in our current state, and other building material options perhaps. The third element of our concern, and that we're here to talk about today and ask for your retroactive approval, is the lighting. This is, yes, the buildings at VUL make it a historic property, but it's always been about the buildings. This isn't a project where we're recreating what has been, because there hasn't been. There's been gravel parking lots, wood poles, and quite frankly, there's an attempt being made to beautify the property right now and put in, and the final element being a safety item with the lighting. We need to pack some lighting into that parking lot to make it a safe area between Cageland and Graham. And if we're having evening classes, we have a practical need for effective lighting. So what we're asking you today is to take take our proposal off the table to approve it and let us move forward with what we've detailed to you to date.
I'm going to open the floor.
Madam Chairman, again, I'm abstaining because I'm doing work with VUL currently.
So should we start with number one?
Hmm?
Should we start with number one?
All right. Pavement.
So, refresh my memory, in the last meeting, I know we were not in favor of the asphalt.
Right.
What was the,
Concrete.
so we were asking them to consider concrete? Okay, has that been considered, concrete instead of asphalt?
With Dr. Buckley's departure, I'm not sure whether that's been a formal item. I can just tell you what I know. When I came 3 years ago, every parking lot and surface at the university was gravel. And all of the improvement we've made to date, which includes a strip in front of 4 of our dorms, between the School of Business and Humboldt's, behind one of the dorms, a side strip next to Cageland, we've made improvements using asphalt. So there'd be uniformity in surface.
Gravel or asphalt?
Asphalt. So there'd be a common look. We're not, we're a historic university, but we're not in a historic neighborhood. So we're not out of character. It'd be nice to go back and do some more colonial things later, but right now.
So I've been on the commission for the past 3 years, which if I heard right, that's when you joined, and all this paving's been done since then. I don't recall approving any asphalt work to occur over there in the last 3 years.
Wasn't in the historic, the buildings that he's referring to are not in the historic district.
Oh, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, thank you.
Oh, yeah, I think that was part of the discussion last month as well. That the specific location is in historic area.
What's that?
You know, the minutes say that concrete is required by ADA. And I think that's why we, one of the reasons.
The paving was required, right? Paving.
So we went back to that and found a more appropriate section that references both pervious and impervious cover that would be more applicable for what they're trying to do. But please keep in mind, even if they get approval today, they still can't use it as a parking lot until they get the rezoning.
Right, okay. Which is not apt to happen by September.
So basically,
don't know that.
for your purposes, zoning doesn't determine which material you should or can approve.
Yeah.
Well, okay, but I'm confused by that because we're currently using it as a parking lot. Now, we're not at this very moment because we jumped the gun. But it is a parking lot. It's purposed as a parking lot. And you're saying we can't use it as a parking lot until we're rezoned?
Yes, sir. So
Yes.
in the R3 district, according to the zoning regulations, you cannot use that space as a parking lot unless you receive a conditional use permit, which has not been sought or received.
And that has nothing to do with
Yeah,
us.
which has nothing to do with your board. I just wanted to keep that in the front of your mind, Mr. Hammond, since I'm sitting right, or excuse me, Dr. Hammond, since I'm sitting right behind you.
Yeah.
I will be gathering information to take back to Dr. Franklin. I am not currently in a project manager mode on this project, so I'm here today to answer any questions that you have and to appeal to you to let us start using the campus to its fullest potential. And the improvements that we're making are a tremendous improvement over what we currently have. And would allow us to move closer to our mission, one being accessibility to handicapped students.
Were you wanting to add something?
Oh, must have seen that.
Oh, yeah. have to, I just,
So,
I want to give you an opportunity.
Thank you. Dr. Hammond has the history. I am actually 2 months new to the Lynchburg area. And just roughly about 2 weeks, I would say, new to the project. My current role is fact-finding, gathering information, so that we can determine how best to move forward. So that's why I'm here, and Dr. Hammond consented to being here because he has the history, the background of things. But I certainly join him in appealing to you. If this, and this obviously goes without saying, this whole process is new to me, but there is a lot, and that's an understatement to say a lot, hinging on our ability to move forward. I mean, we've got things in play now. Students are on campus. They're driving vehicles, and granted, we don't deny that maybe we jumped the gun on some things. I suspect, plug your ears up, Dr. Henderson. That's right. I suspect that moving forward, I'll be, if not the point person, second to that, whoever that turns out to be. So as he mentioned with Dr. Buckley's departure, I've been asked to get involved. I have over 30 years of project management experience, both in the private sector and federal government. So I've learned some things, and I welcome the opportunity to get in and work with this commission to resolve the issues and move forward. But I recognize early on how much is dependent upon getting the approval to move forward.
So our issue when Dr. Buckley was here was with the material for paving and not the parking lot. The parking lot comes under zoning. And even if we approve something, you can't do it until zoning says that you have the go-ahead. And my recollection is that Dr. Buckley was going to look at other options for both the paving and the barrier. And we talked about stones and whatnot. We also asked to see a light. We can't approve something that we don't know what it looks like.
I think the lighting may
I think
have been
they did,
updated.
yeah, they did add a light.
And guardrail as well, it looks
Yeah,
like there
the
was
guardrail.
additional.
Yeah.
So I understand, and thank you for clarifying this. Again, right now I'm just fact-finding.
Yeah,
gathering
and we
information.
appreciate that,
And
Mr.
thank-
Barrett.
no, I
And
appreciate
welcome
you
to
just-
Lynchburg.
So with that in mind, again, with so much dependent upon, given our current situation with students on board and traffic, so the area that's planned to become the parking lot, once we rezone, now that I know that's required, prior to the use of that, or paving it with whatever that turns out to be. What would we be allowed to do in the interim? I mean, we have, what do we do to make it safe for traffic? And how to use that area that's there now, that's clear, and just waiting for the approval to be surfaced with something that's safe? I mean, is there something that?
I don't know that we can advise
that.
on that, honestly. I think
Well, I'm
that,
not-
well, we're on the historical side, not
into
zoning
the
or
process, so,
use.
Yeah.
And I think I speak for everyone that we're certainly sympathetic to wanting it to be ADA compliant. And I think that was part of the conversation last month that what we can approve within the guidelines is concrete. So that's why we shifted the conversation to the concrete instead of the asphalt. And we were waiting for feedback on whether that had been considered. So I think we're eager to work with, we're certainly excited about the improvements that you're doing. And as what we do on the commission is to encourage people to do those improvements. And so I think within the guidelines, that's what we were wanting feedback on, is if the concrete would be something that will work for you, because that is something that we can approve.
So we haven't gotten, of course, the okay to move with concrete, but if that were the decision, but what I think I'm hearing today is that even if we did, we still couldn't use it until, or we can't do it until after rezone.
Correct, that's correct, yes.
That's correct.
That's kind of confusing. I mean, marrying historic improvements with the zoning process that we're applying for, but we're not through yet. So why would you apply the zoning regulations to us before we're newly zoned?
We don't
We're
apply
not.
zoning regulations to you. That is totally
Outside
out
our
of,
purview.
yeah. We have
purpose of
nothing to do with
Yeah.
zoning.
The purpose of this meeting right now is to determine the materials that are acceptable for use. The zoning issue is completely separate, and I encourage you to reach out to Ben or Kevin at another time, maybe tomorrow morning. But that's not necessarily related to this commission's approval or denials.
Mr. Merritt, do
Thank
you
you.
have a
So
question?
I understand that, but, and forgive me, I'm new to this, I'm just trying to, but we have, I'm sorry, I haven't met you.
Ben, we've talked before.
Oh, you
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You're in zone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that answers the question I was about to ask.
Okay. We're glad to have you here, Ben.
Because we're talking about zoning, but yet this, the scope and the agenda for this meeting doesn't include
No.
what Ben does.
No.
we
So
have- we
HPC
have-
regulations fall under zoning for the city.
Gotcha.
I'm here in an advisory capacity if anything weird comes up in this instance where there might be some confliction.
I do have
Okay.
one thing to add to the conversation in terms of concrete, which is the preferred historic material, but it sounds to me like it's due to your grants that may be outside of the budget for, that's why the paving is the preferred, or is concrete just that hasn't been,
Concrete is much more expensive.
Right.
And we are trying to triage this project to make it go as far as it can. And we're going to have to receive additional money in order to get ADA compliant bathrooms, because that's a huge ticket item.
Thank you for mentioning that, because those are the two major, I guess I'll say challenges that we're up against right now. Budget, and of course, being allowed to move forward within the budget constraints that we.
But you also have a campus with historic buildings. And asphalt and historic buildings, in my opinion, do not complement each other. The asphalt just stands out, whereas concrete, or what we talked about earlier today,
Exposed aggregate.
exposed aggregate would be quite acceptable to me.
I don't disagree, and I was
Yeah.
making a lot of the case that you are now. I think there are, and it was brought up last meeting as well, many other examples, whether it's on Rivermont, like Randolph College or some of the churches, of historic properties that do have asphalt there, and maybe aggregate would have looked nicer, but there are ways, whether it's landscaping or other, I don't know what the word is. There, I think, are ways to make it so it doesn't look modern next to an old building. But I'm not here to suggest or say, do this design and we'll approve it. That's not my role at all. But I'm not seeing, other than the lights, or maybe the guardrail, if the picture included was a proposal, a lot that's changed from last meeting for us to review and vote on.
You know, it's a problem with communication as it passes from person to person, it degrades. So what I know and what you know may be.
In fairness, our meetings are public. You can watch them online.
Well.
They're recorded, and so it's been up for 3 weeks or something.
I've still got a season of House to watch. So
Priorities, right?
are the guardrails, is the wooden guard, is this
So this is the revised materials that were
Proposal?
submitted before,
I'm jumping to number 2 for a
Yeah,
moment.
that's fine.
before Karen Buckley left. So she submitted, looks like wooden guardrails with steel on the back, similar to what's used on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And then she submitted photos of the existing lighting on campus. And then this was her notes on the asphalt. They would like to keep it as paved asphalt instead of concrete due to
Funding.
due to funding. I think she said work to match our post tops to the style that exists on campus.
So I'm not trying to like dig in my heels or do anything punitive. I'm just saying, we had a lengthy discussion last time, and there were a few sticking points, but other than the lights, and again, I'm sitting here reviewing applications. I'm not receiving anything different other than the lights from what we reviewed last time.
What about the guardrail?
Or the guardrail. I'm sorry, thank you. And so I'm, what's the word, empathetic to your needs and your funding. I get it, right? Concrete's expensive. But personally, I need something else to review. How are you going to camouflage it or offset it or make it blend or something that doesn't look like a paved parking lot in the middle of a historic campus?
Yeah. And we need to know how tall is the guardrail and
Is that, that's not
how
included?
many lights.
I think
Three
it's
lights.
I think the number was
How many?
included.
So I think in this image, the little blue marks are supposed to be the lights, and then the
Yeah.
line is the
Oh.
guardrail. I think she was saying that the lights that are existing, I think the 3 are what's on campus
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're asking for 7.
Yeah.
7 or 3?
7 for the new parking lot.
Oh, okay,
3
yeah.
already exist on campus.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing is, this is a residentially zoned campus, but it's used as a school. I did include the commercial guidelines for parking areas, since this is a little bit of a unique instance, which it does speak to screening.
Yep.
Um,
You might be able to solve it with a short hedge or something that just doesn't make it so obvious.
Hey, I'm all about
So I was
shrubbery.
about to ask you that, and by no means am I suggesting, I'm sure you want to make sure that I don't think this, that you would approve it if we were to somehow screen an alternative to concrete.
We can submit.
Consider it.
We can submit a conditional approval, like
Okay.
approve it as long as you screen with shrubbery or
Now, acceptable
possibly.
screen would be what, shrubbery? No, there's some other.
Yeah, like a hedge,
Yeah.
boxwood hedge, or, I haven't read the commercial guidelines, so I'm just
That's
reviewing
entirely,
them now.
that's entirely possible.
Yes, so I hope you guys bear with me.
We're here to work with you.
We have a copy of this that you're showing now.
Yes, it's on our website, on the historic preservation page, this is under commercial guidelines, but there's also residential guidelines.
And it addresses the screening that we're talking about?
I mean, yeah, it
Alternative?
says, through the use of landscape materials such as shrubs, brick walls, or trees.
It's loose verbiage, and the intent is that you'll bring us a proposal, if you will. This is how we intend to do this, or mask it, or whatever the intent is,
We're caught in a little bit of a gap, if you will. Karen or Dr. Buckley has communicated some improvements to Eve that I'm not aware of. So with those, with the caps on the lighting, screening on the railing, certainly with all the parking lots of every campus that I can think of being asphalt, it's certainly consistent with current practices to allow us to use asphalt in our parking lot.
I hear you, and we actually did discuss that last month. In fact, I brought that up, and the response was that it was prior to them becoming historical areas. I am inclined, though, given the, the history of the school and the limitation of the budgeting and the unique situation where it's not in a historic neighborhood, and you are trying to have students access this. Granted, there is the separate zoning issue that is outside of us completely to lean towards allowing paving. That does not mean that everyone at this table, I'm just speaking out loud and trying to kind of come up with a solution to make an exception for paving with shrubbery in accordance with the guidelines. I am unclear if in terms of the guardrail, if are you proposing this as an option for your parking lot, or
The railing that is currently up
right
is a match to what was there, turning that corner into the campus before that was torn out. So we use similar materials.
Help me understand, turning the corner onto the campus, was that on a VDOT road or on your campus?
From DeWitt.
DeWitt is a road or a building?
DeWitt is a road that runs.
So it's on a VDOT road?
Yeah, it's on the city.
So they're going to use that aluminum guardrail, right? If I'm following you. That's not a historic look at all.
No, it's not historic. No, I'm not suggesting that.
Last time, that was one of the sticking points last time, and we kicked around different ideas or thoughts, put boulders there, use a wooden style guardrail, something that didn't look so modern or something you would see on the highway. And so I think that's why she was asking, are you now proposing using this wood?
Because there's a picture of the wood in the in the new material that we received for this meeting. That's what we have. So I think Tracy's just trying to clarify if that's what you're requesting for a guardrail.
Or no.
Well, Eve, did Dr. Buckler talk to you about using a different material?
This is, the only communication I received was these revised materials. We didn't have a conversation. This is what she submitted for consideration.
I'm not privy to all the conversations taking place with the building projects. I'm privy to the ones that are working with the National Park Service. I hadn't heard that there are any plans to change the guard railing, and with the hopes that you'd approve that material.
With the existing metal.
But we did not approve it. Yeah, that was one of the sticking.
It was
well,
tabled.
I think we've made the improvement before this, but your last meeting.
Yes.
And hence we acted out of order.
Right, so that's why we're reviewing it, because we'll either need to approve that or we need to approve an alternative. But either way, it needs approval, so that's what we're trying to get clarity on.
And so I think, to continue what she's saying is so that's why we were asking from last month, are you proposing any other material other than the current guardrail? If so, we'll consider it. If not, we'll have to just
go with what we have.
Right.
We'd prefer to go with the existing material.
Sure.
And that'd be our primary position.
Are you open to something more in line with the guidelines?
I don't know. There's a safety issue. It's going to have to be something substantial in order to keep a car from going through the parking lot to the lower deck. There might be other options out there.
Right, for example,
whether-
like the parkway option.
Yeah.
So I feel like we can assume, because this was submitted to you, Eve, that this is what we can consider.
I think we should consider, yeah, exactly, the revised materials that were submitted, in addition to the original application. That is probably what should be looked at, and then anything outside of that, they can resubmit.
Could I make a motion, and it may not live, but, Chair
You, please
Newman?
do, please do.
So could I see the 1 and 2, Eve? So I'm going to make a motion to grant an exception for paving, given the college's situation, all around, finances, that it's not in a historic neighborhood. With the exception of shrubbery that's in accordance with the guidelines, and for number 2, that a guardrail like the Blue Ridge Parkway presented was used instead of the current one. So to not approve the current guardrail, but something in keeping with the parkway, and I know that that would be an additional expense, but it would cover safety and historic in one. And then lastly, to approve the lighting.
Would you be willing to withdraw your motion and make 2 motions?
Yes. I will withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And I will make a motion on number 1 to approve the paving with shrubbery in accordance with the guidelines.
So for clarification there, the guidelines don't give much guidance. They say that that's an option to, I'll say camouflage, but it doesn't say it has to be 18 inches or 3 feet or all the way around or anything like that.
No, it just says should be screened through the use of landscape materials, shrubs, trees. Parking areas added between buildings should be screened with landscaping in the same line as the historic buildings. And then parking areas at corner lots should also be outlined with landscaping or low walls. And just as a reminder, the commercial guidelines are mostly for downtown Lynchburg, which we don't have local historic, but if we ever did, this is what we would want to apply. So it doesn't 100% fit this situation, but it's something to keep in mind.
Okay, is there a second?
I want to second this, but I have a hard time voting on something that I'm not able to see the plan for. I think we probably share that sentiment. So, you know, shrubbery can be interpreted as 2 boxwoods lining the parking lot, or, you know, a hedge of them where you can't see it at all. So it's difficult for me to vote on that.
Could you approve it conditionally?
I think that's what
Yeah, that's what we're approving,
Yeah.
is conditional.
Would you, could we add more specifics? And I guess I'll pose a question to you all. How do you feel in terms of, do you feel like that would be budget-wise, something you could do, shrubbery all around the parking lot, like kind of just to try to like we work together to maybe bring something forward?
There's particularly, while Attorney Tweedy was our COO, we've undertaken a lot of beautification efforts, and I think that would be acceptable. I hope you don't hold us up for a standard that hasn't been created.
It is a standard that exists. We're not creating standards.
We review applications. You didn't submit an application with the design plan.
Yeah.
So we can make it real easy if that's what you're trying to achieve. We're trying to work with you.
So how do we,
In the residential guidelines, it says hedges, shrubs, or fences where noticeable from the street. So again, it's not necessarily specific.
Yeah, it shows pictures where it's more of a hedge that
Yeah.
you can't see through. Now, for a parking lot, I wouldn't have that expectation that you plant, 300 boxwoods, to eventually in 3 years fill into a hedge. But I think what Tracy's asking is, are you willing, work-wise, like labor-wise, and then budget-wise, to put forth some type of effort to do that, sort of like leaning in that direction of landscaping, so that we can conditionally approve the asphalt?
Yeah, I would say.
I think
yes.
that's consistent with our current demeanor.
Okay.
So that means that we would have to submit
No,
a
you,
drawing or plan for you to see that, or?
that's a good question. In this case, he is making the point that we could just, deny this as submitted and then say, give us plans, show us the shrubs, give us a picture, but we're trying to, gain a
Advance
little
the ball.
momentum. And, so it would be, for number one, approving the paving, and again, this would have to be voted on, but approving the paving with the agreement that an effort of shrubs would be made. Again, not a thick wall like she's saying, but an effort to create some, bit of a, shield.
And is the implication that we would see what was planned?
That's the question I'm asking, how,
If
Because
we-
otherwise, we're approving, who knows?
Yeah.
They-
Yeah.
That's my
I have a
struggle,
hard time
and
with,
I
yeah.
understand your dilemma in needing to move forward, but
so if, and I certainly understand and appreciate your position as well. You meet monthly. Is it permissible to submit a picture with, give you some idea of what we're planning to do in terms of adding the shrubbery before the next meeting for your consideration?
Absolutely.
it can be, absolutely, you can submit it at any time, but we only meet and vote once a month.
So it's still.
Is it possible, it may not be, if we do the motion of approving the paving with appropriate shrubbery, that given that they would need to submit photos to Eve, and then she could administratively approve it throughout the month. I don't know if is that a,
The commission does need to make a decision today on the application due to the time limit. So if you wanted to make that conditional approval, that would satisfy the decision needed. And then they could bring something back or submit something separately. But it needs to, one way or another, something needs to be decided.
right, I know we can just say no here and now, but if we were to say approval for paving with shrubs, I think the concern is we kind of want to see something, but we understand the timeline, so if.
Is there a loophole for making decisions?
Well, hold on, are you able to say, do you know, is this on the agenda? Is this going to be approved or reviewed in the next 30 days?
So we
In
have.
terms of rezoning?
Right,
For the rezoning?
yeah.
So, as far as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're missing a traffic study, and they haven't gone through a full TRC review, and I don't believe they've been issued a round of comments because we haven't received a traffic study. So I can't speak to that.
It's unlikely that the
It's-
rezoning is going to be moving forward soon.
Yeah.
So then it wouldn't
So
be.
We're not holding things up, I
Right.
don't believe. If I'm hearing this correctly, we could take the time to let them bring us a
Yeah.
proposal, if you will, or what they intend to do, having heard the feedback, and we could review that without holding you up.
Since it sounds like it's a zoning,
Yeah, you guys can put this on me. They're not gonna be able to use it for everybody anyway until it gets rezoned.
Okay. All right,
I
so do I hear a
prefer to
new
do that.
motion?
Well, there's one on the table, I'll let her rescind it if that's
Yeah,
the route.
it
we're
didn't
gonna
have
go.
a second.
All right, I'll rescind that motion, number 2. I'll let someone give a whirl for the next
And I
one.
can't
Feels
look
like
at
the
them.
same, we're running the same thing.
Yes.
So unfortunately, I make a motion to deny the application as submitted. In my opinion, we need more information than what's been provided. And I think that it sounds like we'll be afforded that time because there's other issues that are holding it up in front of us.
Could we give them some input though on is the lighting okay as submitted in this month, just so they'll know kind of what?
I can give them my thoughts, but I don't know that they would move forward with it without knowing if they can pave it or not. You know what I mean?
And-
Sure,
And
yeah.
my concern is that this was submitted by Dr. Buckley, who is no longer there, and that nobody now knows if I like
What's in the
that.
application,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
So is
So
your
that-
denial for everything or
Yeah.
just the paving?
I'm going to say everything because they're not going to put in lights around the parking lot if they can't put in a parking lot.
Do you have?
Eventually, that's what you do.
If you're not paving it, you would put lights around it like a courtyard?
Put
Is
the
that what you're
pavement,
saying?
you'd sink the poles, and then you'd pave.
But you already have concrete in the
Basically, they're
ground.
already there.
The foundation for the poles is already there.
Is there a second?
Michael, the parking lot has been there for years and has been used for years. It's the upgraded component is the one that's not. being
Okay,
utilized.
thank you. I'll take a step back. So am I hearing that you would like the lights regardless if you can pave it?
I think so.
Probably
I
the
still
guardrail.
think we should
Yes.
start anew
Okay.
that's just my opinion.
We're not going to hold things up by
Start
denying it. so
Start
I-
anew with
yeah.
a different project manager to bring
I'll leave my
us.
motion as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. And I would just strongly encourage you guys to dig into the guard. I know we've been through the whole asphalt concrete conversation a lot, but I really would encourage you to think about the guardrail situation because based on what I heard today, it sounds unlikely that we would approve the metal existing. So the next time we have this conversation, we would really love to be talking about new options. So I just.
I'd just like to make a note that if you deny the options that they're presenting now, it's typically we don't let people apply for the same thing. So if you're denying the wooden guardrail as submitted, that's not really necessarily something we would allow them to bring back because we don't like people to bring back the same thing that we've already denied.
But it sounds like they aren't actually asking for that based on how the conversation was going. It sounds like that was a previous request. Is that
I think
correct?
it sounded
or-
like they were open.
I can only,
If that was part of your motion, we would be open to it.
I can only present what was submitted to me without having talked to Dr. Buckley. I don't know.
I thought, and I may have misunderstood, when we were talking about the parking lot, and maybe considering paving with shrub for the parking lot, that did not include, I don't know if screening is the right word, but shrubbery for the guardrail as is. We really would like to keep what's there. I mean, we've spent the money, and I get it, we were ahead of things, shouldn't have been, I get that, but we've already spent the money for the guardrail that has been installed. And so is it possible to, as we've talked about with the parking lot, do the likewise for the guardrail? Is there some screening?
Let me make sure I understand. Are you saying you put a bush or a shrub in front of it?
Yes.
A row of.
Right.
I don't even know. Is there anything against that in zoning if you can't see it, or you just see a row of bushes?
Do what you want.
I'm not saying that every inch of it.
No, I'm with you. Sure, sure.
Enough would be there
Sure.
to beautify it so that it
Kind of mask
aesthetically
it.
would.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like we're that far off.
Given what Eve was saying, is it possible to rescind your, well, motion, or is it too late with a second?
No, I think you can rescind the second, but Eva's, is there, if it's never been done, is it still possible for them to come back with the same?
I think,
I'm feeling like we're considering a proposal from somebody who isn't there. And Dr. Hammond and Mr. Merritt were not aware of
What was submitted?
Yeah, and I'm in favor of the motion, so.
But then will they not, could they,
I mean, I suppose the whole application would be revised
Yeah.
in a manner.
Could I include verbiage in my motion that says we would welcome another application on this matter?
Yeah, similar materials, just alternative execution, if you will.
How does that sit with you, Eve?
You know, it's tricky, but if that's what the commission wants to do, I think.
I speak for all of us. We really want to work with them. It's just hard to approve something that's vague, that isn't well defined.
And there's
with the
time to
changeover
have it
in
defined.
management,
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, and I think the application, if you're looking for a more specific application, like there's no height on the guardrail.
Yeah.
So that, in a sense, would be a revised application. So that would be okay.
Okay.
and is there anything else that we could give to them to,
Consider.
Like the lights.
yeah, like, can we give feedback on our opinion of the lights so that when they resubmit, they may be closer in line to what the commission?
Well, let's vote on the motion and then give our feedback. Okay, all those in favor of the motion to deny the application as submitted and ask for a new application?
Aye. Abstain.
Okay, so the motion carries with one abstention. And now, Tracy's question about the lights. I'm personally happy with the lights.
Yeah, I think.
Likewise.
Okay.
I think the lights were.
And I'm happy with the guardrail, although I would like to know how tall it is, but it's obviously safe if it's
Now, are you talking about
this.
this
The way-
guardrail? But what about to his point
It's
of,
there now.
in terms of,
I'm not happy with that.
what about with the
That's it,
shrubbery?
That's it.
Yeah, I'm not happy with that at
So
all.
even if we were to put, plant shrubbery along the way, that it's pretty, for the most part, hidden,
Takes up your parking lot.
That is
I'd like
true.
to see more.
you would like to see a different type of garden. Is that?
Oh, yes.
I mean, ideally, yes, I think, but I think the whole point of coming back with a revised application would be, even if you are requesting to keep the metal, that there's some sort of plan for what we can see what we're approving.
If you presented like what's the term? A sketch,
The landscape plan or something.
yeah, to sort of show, so we could visualize what the shrubbery, so we're all on the same page. Ideally, it would be like the Parkway guardrail. I think we're all saying that we would be able to approve because it is with the guidelines. But if you wanted to try the shrubbery approach, maybe present something so that we could see.
Yeah. I think, I speak for myself actually, but I think you need something that enhances the buildings out there. You've got gorgeous buildings, and it's wonderful that things are happening. And this, to me, is a big distraction. You
metal
see that,
guardrail.
you don't see anything else.
The guardrail.
Well, and the asphalt too, but I think we're willing to work on the asphalt. So.
Do you have other questions?
Thank
I'm sure I will, but
Well,
I
I
just
think-
can't think of what they are right now.
If you call Eve,
So the next deadline to submit for the next meeting is September 4th.
That's our next, the date for the submission of the next proposal.
Yeah, all materials have to
September.
be in by September 4th.
September 4th.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for your time.
thank you.
the new guy on the block here, the kid on the block, this has been great.
Well, we look forward to working with
I
you.
really appreciate,
And
working with us. I really do. I'm a stickler for transparency and communication.
Good.
I think we can, we are all winners.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's how I survived these many years. So there's no need for me to change now. I'm too far gone, I guess, to change. So a hearty thank you for
Okay.
Yeah, welcome to
just
town.
working with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you next month.
Let me know what I'm gonna say when I'm here, okay?
I think you heard it all.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
night, Mr. Merritt, thank you. All right, let's look again at the request of the Leaps to install a fence.
Can I take a quick break to use the
Oh,
restroom? I mean, you guys can continue. I don't know what the protocol is, but
Yeah, you can just walk
continue,
out.
don't wait.
If you go that way and down the hall,
To the right.
to the right.
Oh, this is the metal fence in the backyard.
Yeah. You know, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it was attractive.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
all the way down, all the way to your right.
I didn't have any issues.
Yeah.
The design on that, so my neighbor, who also had 2144 Rivermont, he used to have the house next to me and put up a metal fence around the front, and a deer jumped and impaled itself.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's it, when I see that little barb thing, that's the only thing, I'm like, oh.
Maybe I should put one up around mine.
Kevin.
Like about a dozen of them do.
Take that back.
Nope. Urban rats. I agree, Michael, that it would be appropriate.
You can't see it
Right.
from the avenue.
And it's 3 foot tall in its backyard.
Yeah. So was there a motion
Oh.
without Julie?
I'll wait for her to come back
Okay.
so she knows what she's voting on.
And it's her. No, I thought that fence looked nice.
The Dr. Rex.
He was the head of the chamber for a while.
That's
here.
what it was.
Yeah.
Like
His
15 years
title-
ago or something?
Yeah, multiple years ago. His title is actually Dean of the School of Business
Oh, really?
at VUL.
Oh.
But they have
No,
nobody.
there's a lot of hats.
They,
Yeah.
this is the first time I've seen, what was it, Merrick?
Merit. I
Merit?
heard it merit.
Yeah, I have been saying to them for years, you need somebody that knows facilities, that knows construction.
Yeah.
And maybe this is their step in that direction. I would be
Well,
stunningly happy.
yeah.
But
And
they're 60. When they get their final application in, as Ben said, they've still got a traffic study to be completed. I've seen emails going back and forth over the last week that that's in process, because they couldn't start the traffic study until school was in session, so they could see.
Get good counts.
Get real counts. So once that's finished and submitted, they've got to go through TRC again, and then they've got to go through Planning Commission, which is a 30-day announcement period, and then council, which is a 30-day announcement committee.
I don't know that they have to go through full TRC.
Yeah, they've been once.
Yeah, so that should be a quicker review period.
Yeah.
But they do still have to go to planning commission and council.
So 60 days once that final application is in, it's at minimum 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that's,
Yeah, it was helpful to
I
know
think,
we are.
I think that was
Right.
sort of,
That's why I wanted clarification.
Yeah, that
It's
was
like,
good.
It was great that Ben was here because Rex was blaming us.
yeah,
Right.
and that's,
So,
I think that's the first they've heard of that. I mean, that's been a parking lot since I've been going over there for the
Yeah.
last couple of years, 3 years. It's been used on a daily basis, but it's just gravel and grass.
Yeah.
And visually, it's at the end of their green. This parking lot finishes it before it drops off to the lower level. Visually, it needs to be something stunning as opposed to a metal guardrail.
Yeah.
But
We'll get
I
there.
haven't been asked that question.
We'll
They've
get
got, I
there.
don't know who their civil engineer is on this. It's somebody separate from.
And I don't think they know either.
Right.
It's changed multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, Hurt and Profit is on my team doing a number of other things, but this was not in our scope of work, so I know nothing about it,
Yeah.
even though they're my client.
Okay, well, let's come back to the leaps.
Yep.
And Julie, while you were gone, we decided that we liked the
Oh, great,
fence.
okay.
But we
It was in
wanted your
accordance with the
input.
guidelines.
So, yeah, it looks like it's in the guidelines. What are they, sorry, run me through this real quick. What are they proposing? Install 3-foot
Around the
block
back of
seal
the
metal fence
property.
around the area. Yeah, no problems with that.
Okay, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, they have their fence. Is there any other business? If not, we are adjourned. I told my husband.